Hello, welcome back to All for United WSC. I was so prepared at 70 minutes to be sat here writing a YouTube thumbnail and a title saying, game of two halves again. But no, we are sat here as winners. And I said to the guys, I'm not going to waste too much time on the intro because there's literally no point. Let's just get straight into the game and all things in between. We're going to start talking a little bit the things around the game, the away ends and all things like that. We're going to start with that. Then we're going to talk about the game. And I'm sure we're all going to want to talk about those last... What was there, 7 minutes added on, 5 minutes before that when Millie scored? There's so much to talk about there. So make sure you get all your comments in. I'll get through as many of those as we possibly can over the next, however long this goes on for. I want to start with a different angle, though, because it's not very often we have somebody on here who has actually been in the press box for the particular game that we are talking about. So, Jess, thanks for coming back on, firstly.
Hello, not at all.
But I'll come to you. What was that like then? Obviously being... I guess slightly impartial, but what was it like? I think you said to me it was quite difficult being in there. Watching that, but obviously, what a game to see as well. What was it like for you being in the press box, watching that game, I guess, and seeing the away fans opposite you as well?
Yeah, it was really exciting. So we were properly opposite the away end, which was brilliant because we got to see you guys celebrating at the end. I had Michael McCann, the WSL commentator on the FA player, sat in front of me throughout the game. And when the Millie Turner goal went in, he turned around to me and went, "That's why we need to have that." And you could see it so clearly. It was a brilliant, it was a great spectacle. I think just looking at it, it was a brilliant game of football. It looked good. I think in comparison, I then went to Stamford Bridge the next day for Tottenham Chelsea, and it just was not on the same level. And I think that really helped with the comparison of how good of a game of football it actually was to watch. Really exciting. Luckily, I was just there, so I was there with the Women's Football Podcast, and so I was only doing a little updates throughout the game, and it was mainly audio after the fixture. But it was really interesting talking to the players after. I got a great clip from Katie Zellum exclusively after the game, which I sent over to Connor as a little treat after the match finished. But definitely, you guys watching on, go and have a look at the Women's Football Podcast after we finish this stream. I've put the clip in the podcast episode that has just come out. But yeah, it was brilliant. Had to keep a straight face. Struggled at times, but you always have to. As I was saying before we started, the only time I've seen people going properly crazy in the press box was when Molly Green scored the screamer to keep Coventry United in the Championship. That's the only time I've seen people celebrating in a press box. So I had to keep it short, but it was good, really good to see.
No, that's great to hear as well. And do make sure you go check out that podcast. I was listening to a bit of it before we came live, so I'll listen to the rest, I'm sure, afterwards. But yeah, make sure you go and check that out. The Katie bits are very interesting as well, which is always good to hear. I'll just shout out Yehuda's comment. What a vlog also. I have to thank this man down on my diagonal. I don't know where it is, down there somewhere, for capturing that. Make sure, if you haven't already, go and check out the vlog, and also the 2 goals as well. Who doesn't like seeing match day footage like that? Because from a fan's perspective, I think I tweeted it. That was the best vlog I think we've put together. A little bit of insight into London history as well from Barry for the first 25 seconds, which added to the spectacle as well. Charlie, I'll come to you first, and obviously, Barry, you follow in this one. Away ends. It's got to be it, isn't it? Because we're talking today, obviously, the Reading tickets have to come out. We remember what it was like last time at Reading away. Not great, to put it lightly. But how good was that away end, and all things in and around it?
That was the best away end I've ever been in, ever. And I've not just been watching women's football. Before Man United reformed, I went and watched a lot of men's game for Man United as well. But that was the best thing I've ever been in. That was incredible. We've talked before about how it looks as a product and how it sounds as a product, but also people around us as well. It's that atmosphere that makes people want to come back. It's experiencing that's football, isn't it? In that one game, there were immense lows. There were horrible moments. And then every so often you get these massive highs. And to be sharing that at a women's football game with 1,500 other people supporting the same team as you in the same place, there is literally nothing like it. You don't have to worry about standing up. You don't have to worry about upsetting anybody because you're shouting for the team that they don't support. It was absolutely amazing. And I literally can't stop watching clips of it. I can't stop. And do you know what? I'm not saying it's because of the fans, but I genuinely feel like if you ask the players and you ask the coaching staff, us being where we were in the numbers that we were must have helped. It must have helped them, particularly when Millie's goal went in, because you saw their reaction as well. Oh, it was amazing. I can't even put into words properly how good it was, but that's what I want. And it was as good. I was at the Euros final. That feeling I had at that game on Saturday was as good for me as it was when Chloe Kelly scored that goal and we were surrounded by England fans. It was, as a Man United fan, there was nothing better than that experience. Massive stadium, pretty full as well. Away fans making noise, and your team comes from behind, which they don't often do against Arsenal, to win. Oh my goodness, I'll keep it PC on here. I mean, I didn't on Saturday, but oh my goodness, it was amazing. I can't stop smiling just talking about it. So good.
Same, really. I mean, I was going to come in and give me usual sort of, oh no, it wasn't that great, don't do it again. But I can't even make that gag, really, because it was out of this world. From a different perspective, I haven't been to see the men as much as I would like to. I've seen them maybe 4 or 5 times, often in different places, Millennium Stadium, Wembley Stadium. I've been to Old Trafford a few times as well. And the atmosphere at Old Trafford is usually okay, but it was never in the Stretford end. So you get sort of stuck with the people that will sing the easy songs that they know, and then sort of leave the other ones well alone. So, part of the allure of coming to Manchester United and being a fan and coming along to these women's games is that idea of the fact that you get a vocal away and people that will sing every single game, no matter what. And Saturday just exceeded beyond any explanation. Don't get me wrong, what happened on the pitch made a massive difference to that. Had it not been for that, if we'd have just finished 2-1, I'll be sitting here going, it was all right. It's not Old Trafford, is it? As we said before. But those goals, the atmosphere, everything just blended together beautifully. And I would say that's the best football match I've attended in my life. I was at the Stevenage FA Trophy final where we were 2-1 down and a similar sort of thing happened. And it was horrible at the start. And we pulled it round right towards the end and nicked it. And it was awesome. And even that, and that was the first competitive final at the new Wembley Stadium, by the way, just throw that one out there. Even with that, didn't care, wasn't bothered. It was absolutely unreal. And what Ellie's just said there is right. There was a bit of banter. We couldn't hear too much of them. One of the Stevenage girls is an Arsenal fan, and she was there. I did say, did you hear us? And they said yes. And that's the whole point. I think you've only got to look on what was said on Twitter, the number of people that have put on there how big that away end was, how loud it was, how good it was. I think you've got to be an absolute fool to think that that is not the way forward for football.
Yeah, I think just to jump in there, like I could hear you guys from the opposite side of the stadium where we were in the box until like for the whole of the first half, you were louder than the Arsenal fans throughout, and that's just objectively. I didn't really hear much. They all kind of picked up in the second half, especially when it went 1-1, and then kind of from there they picked up too. But when you have fan bases like Manchester United have, like Chelsea women also have, to be fair, you can warrant having a section for travelling fans. I simply do not understand why it's not facilitated, because even if I know this is horrible, but even if you have a team with like a lesser support, maybe like a Leicester who don't travel as much the length and breadth that other teams do, even just to have an area where a couple of 20, 30, 40 fans of that one club can sit as an aside at a fixture at a place like the Lee Sports Village where it can be facilitated, that's a positive thing because it creates that level of camaraderie within those fans. They're way more likely to do it more often if they can be with their own people and it be seen as like the David and Goliath thing with the loads of fans and them knocking the other teams out the water. I simply do not understand what the thought process is behind not having it, because also, like, I know that it was also brilliant to see all of the stewards lining it up and seeing you guys kind of cornered in, because it made it feel real, like it made the rivalry feel proper. I went to the Premier, I was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and I went to see Tottenham versus Newcastle, the Premier League, a couple of weeks back. My uncle's a season ticket holder. I'd never been to the stadium before, so I was like, I'll come with you. And watching you guys in the away end was like watching the Newcastle fans when they scored against Tottenham, and then everyone else being silent and them going absolutely crazy. I think it's so important because that's where you make those memories. I think it's so ridiculous that we're still having this conversation. It just needs to happen. And yes, it's logistically more difficult at the smaller stadiums, but then there's the bigger issue of should Arsenal and Chelsea be playing at Kings Meadow and Meadow Park like week in, week out? No.
It was quite interesting because on this thread that was going on Twitter, I was talking to a Crystal Palace man, I think it was. Again, they're talking about this away end idea. And I quite innocently said, would you still want it? Do you have the number of people that are going to make an away end worthwhile for you? And like they said, actually, if you get 15 people, which is what we were, I suppose, just 15 people singing to begin with, in that same area where they know they can book tickets together, it really would make a difference. So, I think we need to all just be spamming the WSL and the FA now in every single tweet we ever do about it, because it's ridiculous. They've got to change the rules. They've got to. We've got to.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we wouldn't have had an away end at all if it wasn't for the likes of Ian Wright and Tim Stillman and people like that actually pushed it for us. Arsenal weren't going to give us one initially. When you follow what the sports club do, they weren't actually going to give us an away end. It was people like that had to force the club almost to give us one. And look at that, packed out away end. I just want to say thanks to everyone who has subscribed, by the way, over the last kind of 48 hours. It's been absolutely crazy for the Twitter and for the YouTube, but we've had over, I think it's about 100 subscribers in the last 48 hours, which is fantastic. Great to see some new people in the chat. We'll just address some of your comments. Ryan, not seen you before. It's great to have you on. Love Millie's header. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because it looked like Arsenal, 7 minutes added on for Arsenal to get the win, and then we ended up nicking it. Who else was it? I've not seen before. One of the best away ends I've been in, and I follow the men as well. I mean, that's quite a statement because the men's away end is always absolutely rammed and really loud as well. Marcus, I know if people who watch the men's channel will know who Marcus is as well, so thanks for joining in. Lots of comments about away ends being a must. Obviously, Ellie's a big fan. Obviously, I'm sure you're not looking forward to Reading either because that was, like I said, horrendous last season. What's they saying here? Women's football should be in the stadiums or in stadiums. I mean, yes, I'd hope so. Unless you're going to Everton or somebody like that, then it's most of them are. But I think
I decided I'm not going to go to Reading next year. This time, I'm not going to go to Reading. I'm going to change it. I'm going to go to Reading instead and see if that makes a difference.
Oh, dear. 13 minutes in, he's got his first pun in. There we go. Deary me. But yeah, I'm sure it's a conversation that's going to rumble on anyway. But did you guys lose? We didn't lose.
No.
It was just
3-1. It was very comfortable.
It was just a really poor away end.
Just didn't win any
about 10 minutes to put the goal up.
Yeah, felt like we were in the heavens in that one. But there we are. Right, let's move on to the game itself then. I don't really know we'll do it in order. Start with the first half, Toone's goal, and a dominant first half as well, because, not going to lie, I didn't expect that. I thought we'd be in the game. I didn't expect us to dominate Arsenal. Obviously, from an Arsenal perspective, they had a few players missing as well. We've got to take that into account, that they were missing some key players as well. But their starting 11, I would argue, is probably still a little bit better than ours on paper. When you're looking at it, Chess has got all.
I was about to say, you can see. So I wrote an article for Since 71, earlier, like on the Thursday before the game, and I am still consistent to this, even though I predicted that Arsenal would pip it because I thought the home crowd would push them over the edge, which obviously wasn't what ended up happening. Manchester United as a squad are incredibly cohesive. The team doesn't have the level of world-class players that you have at Arsenal. That's just if you're looking at that. Realistically, they have 5 national team captains, I think 5 or 6. It's people who are starting for their country each time. That's not a slight on the Manchester United players because it really isn't. But you just kind of sometimes you have to look at it respectively like that. But they falter so much in their injuries because they're playing so much football. and playing more more international football as well. And because they don't have that level of cohesion, especially when you start losing players like Sousa and Williamson and Kim Little, who's now gone, and you massively saw the gap in that team. That's where they really fall down and falter, and they can't control games like they're able to do. When Manchester United can play their own football, then they dominate because they are cohesive. When they are on the back foot and not able to do that, which is what normally happens when we play a team like Arsenal or Chelsea, normally we can do it for 45, maybe 60 minutes, and then you tire off, and then that is literally what happened against Chelsea, and then you tire off, and that's when the goals go in against. That's where they fall down, but that's not what happened in this game. They were able to control the game, and yeah, as you said, coming out strong in the first half was really kind of showed that. It was a bit here and there for the first 15 minutes, but then realistically, United had more of the possession, and they also had more touches in the opponent's third. So I think it's really important to think of that as well. Sorry for jumping in. But
no, you fire away. But I am going to ask you a question, Charlie, off the back of what Chess just said as well. But do you think we set up any differently to the Chelsea game? Because it was we were in the Chelsea game, but I don't remember us having loads of chances. In the Arsenal game, and I always say this anyway, I always feel more confident playing Arsenal than Chelsea. But do you think we set up any differently? Did you notice anything different in the first half against Arsenal than Chelsea, other than the fact that we were more dominant?
What I found really interesting, and it might be, my brother's an Arsenal fan. He was in with the home crowd on the halfway line, I think just on your side, I think. And I was talking to him about it on the way home. And it felt like, and it was perhaps because the Arsenal backline was depleted and players not in position, that we kind of let them have the ball a little bit. We weren't so worried about them. It was as soon as the ball came into the Arsenal midfield, Zellum, Ladd, Toone were just, my brother said, like a mental pack of beeps, but they were. We were just pressing them in 2s and 3s. And the Arsenal midfield just could not cope with that at all. They couldn't get rid of the ball. They couldn't pass it sideways. They couldn't pass it forwards. Sina Bakstenius was just running around our back four, like, because there's nothing else for her to do. It just felt like, and also along with that pressing, the physicality from our midfield. I think they're not very big. Like Toone, Ladd, and Zellum aren't very big, but crikey, were they physical. They were kicking, they were leaving a foot in, they were winning every aerial duel. They were really going for it against that Arsenal midfield three, because I think with them losing Kim Little, I think that massively affects Arsenal from a technical point of view in the middle of the pitch. The ability to keep hold of the ball in tight spaces and beat a player. I just felt like physically we outdid them in the middle of the park. And I think that is a massive thing for Man United, because I think often that's where we struggle a little bit against these sides. Whereas against Arsenal, we just went. If Ladd went to press, Zellum went with her, Toone went with her, Russo went with them, and Arsenal just couldn't get out. They'd clearly looked at the Arsenal back line and then how the midfield would be affected by what was happening there. And just, I think we outplayed them massively. I was a little bit worried again that we only went in with one goal. I felt like it should have been more. But I just feel like the physicality and the way we pressed, and we didn't seem to tire in the second half, which is really important, because again, we've talked a lot about the stamina of our team. I felt like that was the difference there. Physicality, the press, and the Arsenal midfield just could not cope with that. And I think historically as well, we would sit back a bit more against City, Arsenal and Chelsea, like a little bit like overwhelmed by them. Sort of like we'll just sit in and try and shut up shop, but we weren't doing that. And perhaps Arsenal weren't expecting that as well.
No, it's a fair point you make. We're going to talk about the midfield in more detail, because I think it's fair to judge them individually, because I think they were outstanding. We are going to do our player of the match poll. I'll stick it in a chat in a second. You'll have about 25 minutes to vote on that. There's a couple of people talking about the ref as well. I've got that written down, but I don't really want to talk about it because it's a negative conversation to have, and I don't really want to have that when we've just beaten Arsenal away 3-2. But I do agree with the comments that have come in on that one. Barry, same question to you, really. What was different in this one from the Chelsea game? I know you're going to touch on the midfield. Obviously, if we could try and not go into the midfield too much, where else do you think the differences were, or do you think it was purely just the midfield?
Well, obviously, Honor was playing, so that makes a difference. Adds a little bit of an, I think, confidence to your back line, really, when you know you've got that, and it gave us the width. And I think that's what we've been missing. I said that time and again when we were talking about Maria. She's a good player when it comes to defending. You can trust her to do that. That's not a problem. But she just can't get forward as well as Honor can, as well as Hannah can, as well as Leah can. So she gives it a go, but you can't have that width. So as much as she was getting herself out there and trying to offer herself in those games, it wasn't enough. Honor just does that. She just does it. It's second nature to her. So I think that's one big difference. I think actually it was quite a good idea to keep Paris starting rather than putting Garcia on just because she was back. I think that gave Keats a little bit of confidence going into that as well, and rightly so, because she's earned it. I think she's done really well. But I actually had a question for you, Connor, because inexplicably, you started this. You say you don't want to talk about the ref because it's negative, but inexplicably you started talking about how Arsenal got a better team on paper, and it threw me back to James on the Arsenal preview, and he mentioned that they had maybe 5 or 6 world-class players, and I forgot who he said. Can you remember who those world-class players were?
I think a few of them are injured, so he definitely said Rafa, definitely said Little. I can't remember who else he said, but I think half of them were injured. So
he said Vulci, didn't he?
Yes, definitely.
Did he say Max Denius?
He said McCabe as well. McCabe and Miedemar, I think he said.
And Miedemar, right. So I would say 4 of those were playing, and I argued that we had some world-class players and some potential world-class players. And, I just thought I'd finish my little segment by saying, looks like I was right again.
Saying 5 was they do. If we're being honest here, Arsenal do have at least 5 or 6 world-class players. I know we like to be a bit biased, but they have. I think if we're looking at it like that. Sarah remembers, got a better memory than me. McCabe was definitely one of them, he said. And didn't I say earlier as well that she'd get a yellow card? I think that was just inevitable. Probably should have been a red at one point, but there we are.
Did you notice as well a lot in the first half? United kept playing the ball through to Nikita Paris, who was just running at McCabe, which again is a deliberate decision, because McCabe's one of those players where I would have her at United because I love a player who's a bit feisty and will have a bit of a scrap. I like that. But United clearly knew that. They know that she's always on the edge. She's got a short fuse. So Nikita Paris was just running at her all the time and making her make a decision and making a kick out. So again, I think that was an intelligent tactical decision. Nikita Paris, for 60 minutes, just run at her, please. Keep running at Katie McCabe because she will lash out. And we could have maybe borderline got a penalty off the back of that. So again, that's a good tactical decision.
I think it's really important to, the use of running at McCabe and that battle between Keats and McCabe. I'm so impressed with how Keats has kind of gelled into the squad, and I think it was really a big test, her coming up against her former club, especially in the way that she didn't really get what she wanted from that Arsenal side. But I mean, McCabe got sent off 2 yellows the last time they played Manchester United. I think that's a really important thing to point out. And although she receives a lot of yellow cards, she doesn't normally receive reds. So I think playing on that definitely, but it was great to see a battle there. I was very worried because I thought Keats was either going to score the winner or get sent off, and luckily she was subbed before she got sent off. But yeah, because I think we maybe got a little bit lucky in the second half with one of the tackles that the ref just kind of didn't see. But that's fine. We'll let that go.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, true.
In the first place, it was ridiculous.
But that is very true. But I didn't think. Yes, some stuff was missed, but I also think that there was a couple of good advantages that were played in both teams' favour as well. And this is when I have to come in and pretend to be impartial. Yeah, that's it. It's part of the job. I have to pretend to be impartial. But I think Welsh had a good game.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Mickey, in answer to your question, we could have picked anybody. We had to pick 4 names. One player is way out in front. I don't think she's going to get caught anyway. I think everyone knows who it is. But we had to put 4 names on there, as we always do. I love the fact that when we do player of the match polls, we don't know who to put on, because that means it means one or two things really. It means we've played that bad that we don't have 4 names, or we've played that good that you could pick anybody. So and it's the latter for this one.
And also, Connor, the other thing that was different was we scored. And I know that sounds really stupid, but when Chelsea scored, it's easy to deflate yourself then, and they scored 2 in quick succession, and that does affect your confidence when you're playing a team as good as that. I think us getting the lead against Arsenal was massive, because it meant we were getting a bit of a payoff for what was an incredibly good start and incredibly good half. And I think we would have gone on to win even better and even bigger potentially had we not had that immediate goal that I'm sure you're about to come to.
No, indeed I am. And Mickey, I wouldn't say that. I think she was good, but I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, Mickey, no, I can't go along with that one, son.
We'll get back to the player of the match towards the end anyway. Go on, we'll talk about the first goal. I'll let anyone go first in this one. I don't really have too much on it because it was a mistake from an Arsenal point of view. Zinsberg is either, if she's coming for that, she's got to claim it.
I've got 6 words. We should have closed down first, and that's it.
You're on about that. You're on about their goal. I'm talking about Tunis.
Oh, we're on our one.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, another 6 words. It was absolutely brilliant, mate.
There we go. Has anyone got anything to add on the Tooney goal? I think I'll go on. Go for it.
Yeah. It was coming, wasn't it? Because Galton had or Galton, if you were whoever was doing that was really annoying when you watch it back. Leah Galton had a really good chance, and someone else had. Who else had a really good opportunity? Maya Letizia from a corner had gone on the roof of the net, so it was coming. But yeah, it was sloppy from Arsenal, but a really good run from Ella Toone. And she needed that. But she's a big game player, isn't she? She loves putting in a performance against Arsenal, and we deserved it. We absolutely deserved to take the lead. We'd been completely on top up until that point.
Bloody hell. 6 more comments came in when I was trying to get rid of that one that was currently on screen. Chess, do you have anything to add on the Tooney goal?
I'm going to be completely honest. I missed it because I was reading a quote from Ronaldo's latest interview. I looked up and I was like, oh, and she's running off with the heart signals. I think we're 1-0 up. No, which is
a lot to answer for.
Yeah, which is bad journalism on my part. But I think I wasn't really expecting something to come from that run of play, which is almost as impressive that they can make something from what was not a particularly threatening looking run, and still being able to put that ball into the back of the net. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Arsenal's first goal, though.
Yeah. Should we go into that negative? Because I mean that really annoyed me watching on TV because Marnham has ran about 50, 60 yards unchallenged. I think the commentator actually did say, "What are United doing?" Because it was like. I feel for Maya, it's a deflection. It happens. Obviously, she had another deflection against Chelsea, which is a bit unfortunate. But that's not on. Someone has got to close. I think, Charlie, you said it on the match reaction after Chelsea that we didn't close the player down on the edges, but we didn't do it again. And this time we let somebody run 60 yards. Really bizarre.
At least this time, one of our defenders wasn't pointing at the oncoming player to everyone else on camera, and then no one goes down. It's. I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't it? Like you saw it with Spain against England, didn't you, with Georgia Stanway? They're making the decision that they think the player's not going to shoot from there, and are just backing off. But I think you're right. It hits a point when someone's got to go. And then it just did for Mary. It's been really, I've found with that, we've not conceded loads this year, obviously, I think 5 across all the games in the last 2 games. It's just so frustrating that the goals we're conceding aren't even really, they're like horrible deflections or just individual errors. It's like, it's not teams playing incredible football against us. It's not, nothing amazing has happened. It's just in those moments not quite making those right decisions. And Manham's shot was doing nothing. If you watch it back, that was the shot of someone who's just ran 40 yards at full pelt and is knackered. She's like she's almost half falling over. So Mary would have made that save. It's just, yeah, it's a frustrating one. It's easy for me not to be cross about it this time because we went on and won.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm happy they scored it. I'm happy they scored it because I've seen Manchester United play a lot of times where they go 1-0 up and then they try and cling on to that one goal. And the fact that it was scored really quickly into the start of the second half meant that they actually had to bring the game to Arsenal. And it meant that they weren't just defending. They didn't play defensively. They weren't just trying to hang on to the goal. There was something still at stake. And again, I can say that now that we've ended up winning the game. But genuinely, it was the one in the league, the 1-1 draw to Arsenal. What did we score? It was like the 15th minute or something. It was really early on. And then for the entire rest of the game, they were clinging on to that goal. And then they ended up Viv Miedemar gave that absolutely incredible assist through ball that cut up the defence, and there wasn't really much Mary could do about it. So I'm almost happy that they did actually score and equalise because it meant that it ended up being a very good game of football.
No, it's a fair way to look at it. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too happy watching it on TV. I got to be honest, but I get your point. The fact that because I was a little bit worried that we were going to come out. I think Charlie, you said it on the vlog actually at half time that we can't just sit on this now. Like, it's great that we're ahead, but we can't just bank on this because Arsenal are always going to come out a different team in the second half. They were never going to be as bad, and they weren't, for the kind of 20, 25 minutes after half time. And obviously, Miedemar came on. Don't think she did too much, but things changed.
You've got to keep giving the opposition something to think about, and that what we did a lot last year was we just sat back and just let them have the ball, and eventually anyone will pick you off. Something will happen. Someone will make a mistake. So that's what you need to do, isn't it? You need to keep giving even if you're ahead, giving the opposition something to think about, something that stops them from having the ball all the time and from dictating play. But you're right, like Ches, you're right. I would worry that we would have just tried to sit in, which would have been a mistake. I maybe think in hindsight we wouldn't, just because it got to 2-2 and we were still going for it. So maybe the mentality always would have been a bit more positive. But yeah,
I think just quickly before we move on to the second goal, I've got to bring it because you've put this twice now. That is a Barry type phrase if ever I've seen
the
one.
Midfielder Mar, wonderful, wonderful. I'm nicking that. That's going in an article. I'm sorry, that's wonderful.
Number one, see, these things can be good, Connor. Number two, I've seen that elsewhere on Twitter as well. So, it does get used a fair bit. And number three, you need to stop being jealous that you're just not the wordsmith that I am.
Hey, I came up with a good one last Thursday. I came up with a good one last Thursday. Went straight over your head, and you missed that
That's
one.
because you've got no hair. Did nothing to catch it.
Dear me. Jennifer again talking about the attitude. Zaya following the Chelsea result. Yeah, I agree. Ian's asking you a question, Charlie. I don't think so. What time's Watershed? I don't even know.
Right, I challenge anyone. To be in that situation and not swear once or twice.
I managed it.
No, false.
That's just when the camera. As soon as the camera.
No point. Am I swearing?
False. Come on, no one's biting that.
On that, it clearly didn't.
I wasn't like some mad yawping person. It was one little F-bomb near the end. Yeah,
and Barry caught it on the vlog, which you shall see. And Deborah, surprised you remember any of it.
Right, I had two pale ales. What's the problem? It's like the fun police. I was with my brother. We're having a lovely time. And then my favourite thing in the whole world, except for maybe my husband and my children, just won a really important football game. Back off.
You should have seen her conducting, mate. She could have done the Royal Philharmonic that day.
My throat is still sore.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. Moving on to the second goal, because I want to get to the United goals. We'll just briefly talk about the second Arsenal. I actually thought this one was all right. Obviously, you can defend it. Every single goal you could say is a mistake on our part. You could argue that for Arsenal's point of view, it was a mistake on their part. But I think for this one, Garcia had just come on, and I don't think she was quite up to the pace of the game because it's her side. She's lost the runner at the back post. But it's a good ball in. It's a fairly decent volley as well. Is there anything from anyone that United could have done to stop it? And also from Charlie and Barry, obviously, what was the feeling in the away end at that point when that goal goes in? Was it a feeling like, oh, here we go again? Or was it, no, let's get behind, let's get this back kind of thing?
It was horrible. It was absolutely horrid. But again, you can say this because we won. It was only then that if we were looking at the pitch, the Arsenal fans to the left of us started giving it a bit of that. It was only at that point where they started making a bit of noise, which did then make it a little bit spiky in our end. It did sort of up the ante a little bit. It was a really good goal. Annoying, but I think it had a positive impact on the overall atmosphere. Again, I keep going back to it. A bit like the Euros when England were 1-0 against Spain, people were like, oh, like this matters actually. Like, people who aren't normally into all of the chanting and the cheering and the shouting, it was like, they might not win. This is quite important. This is important now. I don't like the thought of them not winning. And that kind of sort of flared it up a little bit, which was good.
It's one of those where no matter what, you're not going to change what happened because, it's the 99 Cup final in that respect. You just, as annoying as it was, that game was 90 minutes of absolute dross and then 3 minutes of just pure elation. This one wasn't quite as bad as that because it had, 97 minutes of really good football. But you wouldn't want to change the emotions you went through. Having said that, I think if we're going to sit here and say that people like, who? Mr. Behave. if we're going to sit here and talk about Wildebeest Risa, for example, you think about what Mark Skinner was talking about and how that's what you've obviously seen something I haven't, but I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. I think we're going to talk about Wildebeest Risa and the fact that she's not being given the chance to play because she's not tracking back enough and she needs to do more work defensively. I feel like you've got to have that same conversation with Lucia at the same time, because it's vital if you're going to be down the wings that you've got to be there to help your fullbacks when they're not in that position. It was a brilliant cross from McCabe and an absolutely cracking finish. You've got to give it that, but never in a million years should somebody be left unmarked at the back post in the manner that they were for her to be able to do that. And unfortunately, that one was on Garcia, and that is the only negative that I've got out of the entire game.
No, that's a fair point. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I give it a little bit of the benefit of that because I don't think she was up to speed yet. But again, you could argue if you're coming on into a game like that, you've got to be ready for that ball to come in. And yeah, for me, it was frustrating, but it was like I said, the overwhelming feeling for me was just, oh no, like not again. Like not another top 3 game where we've been in the game and we've come out with literally nothing. But things changed, which I'm sure we'll get onto. Well,
wait, did we win? Did we win?
You mean that wasn't it?
I actually don't think you've mentioned that yet. Yeah.
What? No.
I like the fact that you
a 90 plus one Alessia Russo screamer. What are you saying?
No, never.
Never. Tap the badge on Millie Turner. Who? Who's she? Never heard of her.
What I will also add was that we had one infiltrator in the away end in a funny little hat who thought he was really clever at 2-1. He stood up and he was cheering the goal and everything. And yeah, it did start to turn a little bit then. But like Charlie said,
was that when Shane went to him, mate? If you're in this end, you've given us 12 quid. That's what you've done. It's funny. You've just given us 12 quid. Well done. Wow, that's bizarre. That's bizarre, isn't it, to do that?
Deary me. Clearly didn't get the memo on that one.
To go on our website to do that.
Yeah, you did actually, yeah.
Had to sign up to our thing, which is the whole reason why we want away ends in the first place. I keep getting emails from Manchester City. I don't want them. I don't want them.
Tell me about it.
Leave me alone.
Buying the Reading tickets earlier, having to sign up to Reading again because I couldn't remember my password from last time, so I had to try and sign up again for the Reading website to get our tickets and all things like that.
Do it for Diane. Do it for Diane.
If Ella's still in the comments, Ella's definitely doing it for Diane. If you're still in the comments, Ellie. What's Deborah on there? What about the kid who celebrated their equaliser for getting the team to change ends? What? Did that happen?
A United fan, a little kid, didn't realise the change of ends had happened, and Arsenal scored and thought it was us. Yes,
you're like, no.
Weren't they?
Oh, that's quite sad.
And that kid was Charlie.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
But it wasn't one of you two that ran onto the pitch, was it?
I forgot about that.
What parenting? Those, like, your team's trying to win, your team's losing, and what are the parents doing? Your kids cannot go to football games now.
No, it was 3-2. It was 3-2. It was 3-2 in an injury time because we were just like, we were all kind of sat in the presser like, well, if these are Arsenal fans, this is not that. Like, this is the opposite of what you want to happen. You want to play the full 7 minutes.
But it was the fact it was kids that got me. I mean, what a change! It's not usually, is it? It's just usually some people that have had a bit too much to drink.
And then Zinsberger trying to rugby tackle one of them. Wonderful. Yeah, exactly. No, she took a swing at one and then tipped out last minute because I think she went over and was like, I actually think they're 9 years old.
She doesn't want to be the next Boris Johnson, does she? Yeah. Tackling a child.
Yeah.
No one wants that.
Don't want to catch a charge, be clipped up on Twitter.
All I've got to say about this, right, is out of the entire day, I was possibly one of the only people that wasn't stood in a chair. So,
well, there we go. We'll have to get a picture of all of us stood together in a line. Let's see. In fact, we have. It's my cover photo on Twitter, so you can see the kind of Barry's height on that one. But poor Shane as well, if he's in the comments.
I'm smaller than Shane. We worked that out at LSV the other week. So really? I'm officially the smallest in the.
Look, you and Shane are both within the range of normal height.
That's the nicest thing you ever said to me.
And go, gosh, that's a small man.
Oh, there we are. And Sang is right. Sam Kerr, pitch invader
Brilliant.
solution. That was, when was that, a year or so ago?
I loved that. That was a 10-year. Like, people were a bit prickly about that, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah,
Oh,
I thought it was
100%.
funny as well.
Right, let's get on to the last 2 goals then. You've got about 15, 20 minutes to vote on the poll if you haven't already. Let's have a look who's out in front.
Look, who's out in front?
I think, yeah.
I can't contain myself.
I think she's going to win it by a country mile, I think, on this one.
We'll talk about that in detail as well.
Yes. Well, yes. In fact, before we get to the goals, let's do the midfield then. It kind of ties into the goal, doesn't it? Because obviously it was Zellam's delivery that led to both goals. But the first one in particular, now she obviously did similar at Leicester for the Paris goal, kind of that from that similar kind of angle. We've been seeing Katie do this for years. It's not something that's new to United fans. Obviously, some fans are now twigging on as to how good she actually is from a set piece. But Charlie, talk to me about Zellam's performance then, because there was a lot of. We actually had the debate on the Arsenal preview last Thursday. James and everyone's entitled to their opinion, but didn't say he rated her at all and didn't think she was any good. But again, proven, and to be fair, has retracted that and said that we were right. So that's fair enough. But yeah, Charlie, talk to me about Zellam's performance and that first goal, the kind of the delivery and just everything in and around that.
Right, okay. I'm a fan of her. Everyone knows that. I think rightly, because she's a really good footballer. I just think there's a bit of noise from people about her not being good enough. It's just gained traction. I think it's insane. Some of the greatest players we've had at Man United haven't been technically the best players always. I think based on last night, we can debunk this myth that taking set pieces is overrated or just a bit of a party trick. That's mental as well. Because the free kick that she took was perfect. Okay. Now that was clearly planned. Arsenal were playing quite a high line, which was an error on their part. You saw Millie Turner go over to her and say something, and then Millie joined that attacking lineup really, really late and found a gap between McCabe and Lotte Wubben-Moy, and that had to be perfect, that ball. It had to land perfectly, and it did. Millie Turner made a really good run, but she didn't have to work really hard to get there because the ball was in the perfect position. And that happened pretty much every single time. I think when we played Everton recently, when it was really windy, Katie Zellam took a corner and it went out straight away because of the wind. And it was like tumbleweed. It was like, what on earth? Like, that just doesn't happen because she is so good at them. If we were in a situation where to get Champions League or win a trophy, we had a free kick on the edge of the 18-yard box, I would put every single thing I own on her taking that and either scoring or putting in such a good cross that someone else scores from it. And I think the players said that afterwards. They said, I always know Katie's going to put it in the perfect place. But outside of that, she was absolutely colossal in the middle. Her and Hayley Ladd together, people say she's not the quickest or she's soft. She was a massive physical presence in the middle of the pitch for us yesterday. If you look at her stats, which sometimes matter and sometimes don't, depending on the player, but if we're just going to look at her stats, she won all of her aerial duels, the amount of interceptions, the amount of blocks she made, but also the amount of attacking passes she made into the final third and into the opposition box. She was critical to us winning that game. But also the way that she led the team, if you look at her reaction after the goals, she is the one keeping everyone calm. She is the one giving the instruction about what we need to be doing. And the players follow her. That's why she's a really good leader. And I know really you just wanted to know about the goal, but I feel like that needs to be said. And people can disagree. But I think to say she is not good enough to play for us is absolutely bonkers. I think it's bonkers.
Her confidence has improved a lot, and I think the leadership skills has come with it. I think the half a season after Dubai Gate, she had a real dip off in form, and I kind of questioned what she was doing. But I honestly now, and you can put me on record for saying this, and you can clip it up, and people can blast and try and fight me on Twitter about it. I think she's the best set piece taker in the WSL. And because of the variety that she is able to do, and it's pinpoint. It's why she's in the England squad. That's what you need. And again, it's the leadership. And she said to me after the game, it was about the cohesion that they have as a squad, and they've developed and matured a lot together. And you saw that after they all celebrated, she got the team into a huddle, and you could tell that she was telling them what they were meant to do next. I don't know if it came from her for then Ella Toone and Russo to hold the ball down in the corner like they did in the Euros final, or it was something that they'd learned from that. But it's all about game management and having the maturity as a player to be able to do that, and also push your team to be able to do that. I think it's so important, so brilliant to have as a captain. I was really impressed. Also, she did a really sick thing in the first half where I was talking about this before. There was like a Rondo situation where she like dodged past 5 players, and I was sat in the press and I was like, that's pretty sick. That was very cool. Where's this come from? Like, you're awesome. Well done.
I've been banging that drum since the very first day that I was on this show. So I don't really need to say much more about Katie Zellum because there's 46 people watching this, and I would say that most of them all know that anyway. All I will say is that Millie said after the game that Katie had told her where she was going to put that free kick, so she knew exactly where to run to. And that's exactly what she did. You know, like I say, there's a bit of space for her to run into. It was a perfect run from Millie Turner. She timed it brilliantly, and then the ball came straight to her. And I think Ella Toone joked with her at the end, didn't she? Saying, you know, about time you got that one because we practiced it enough. But perfect. And I think my biggest worry was as I was watching it, obviously Katie Zellum was about to take a free kick 5 minutes to go. Why wouldn't you want to record that? So there I was recording it, and it hit the bar. And I'm just thinking, oh, it's one of those days. And then it bounced down. And I'm like, oh no. And then I didn't actually cheer until it bounced back up again and it hit the roof of the net. And that was it. Scenes, limbs, everything else going on at that point. It was crazy. But I would, you know, if I had to put my house on one person taking a free kick and having a chance of scoring it, she'd be the person I'd pick from that team every single day, ending in Y.
No, I can't disagree with any of what's been said. It's just, like I said, for people that have watched United for years, you know, the women's team, Zellum set piece deliveries are not a surprise to people. I think I agree with what Chess you said. I don't think there is a better set piece taker. I think you would put everything on her, putting a good ball in. I very rarely, and my issue with it is when she puts one bad ball in, everyone goes, see, that's why. And it's like, what? Because she does one bad out of 100. Like, if it was the other way around, then I get it. If it was one good in, you know, however many, there's plenty of people that do that. They hit one good, insane free kick, and then the rest are awful. And they go, oh yeah, but they're good at free kick. Well, no, because they've just hit one. If you do it consistently, that's an art. And we said this, I think, after the corner goals last year, that to do it once, okay, you could argue a bit fluky. To do it 3 times, that's
in a row.
In a row as well.
In 2 weekends in a row.
So yeah, I think that's. Yeah, we could talk about, and I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about her in about 10 minutes' time as well, because she's going to win the player of the match poll, and there's something dramatic changes. She's currently on 75%. So,
how many people are saying this as well? So many people now saying, "Oh yeah, we weren't sure about Zellum, but you know, we're starting to turn the corner." And it's like, just open your eyes and you'll see it. It's not hard. She's not hiding it.
No, it's all who everyone wanted to talk to in the mix zone afterwards. Bless, the Arsenal media manager came out and was like, we can't give you Weinreuther. Is Catley all right? And we were like, can you go get a Katie Zellum? And he was like, oh, sorry, I don't control those. And we were like, oh, all right, that's not your fault. But she came out afterwards. But yeah, I think that just kind of shows, like, yeah, it was just emphatic. She's very good. We've always known that, but it's good to see everyone else recognizing game too.
There's definitely justifiable criticism out there. Certainly in the Chelsea game, I think it was justified. And certainly in previous games against top 3, I think it has been justified. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into her in a little bit when we get to play the match. Like I said, because nothing's dramatically going to change. While everyone is here, I'm going to shout out tomorrow's show. So I did say that we would have a special guest back on. So we have, I have already recorded it earlier on. So Shaban is back on tomorrow, and there's more praise about Zellum in that one as well. I didn't ask her about Zellum, so people can throw that, oh, Connor's got an agenda. You've asked her to say that. I haven't. I asked her about the game. She chose to talk about Zellum. So, but stay tuned for that. It's either going to be 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock tomorrow, but that is a really good one to watch, and some insight into the Arsenal camp as well, because of being family members and things like that. So make sure you check out that one as well. There's a lot of group hugs going on for Mark. Did nobody hug Mark when you scored?
Tried to. You weren't having none of it. I've never felt so unloved in my life from my own brother. Just weren't having none of it. I'm tearing up thinking about it now.
That's even worse. Deborah didn't hug Mark.
To be fair, she had about 3 people between her and Mark, so that would have involved some crowd surfing of some type.
You found a way. There we go. Proud to say, Mark and I brought the Katie flag. We are all very grateful for that, seeing that, especially at LSV and all the grounds that you take it to. Well, apparently drunk Charlie gave her...
Yeah, but she was hugging everybody, to be fair. I mean...
Next time I'll make sure I don't celebrate at all if you're going to start.
I was just about to say, isn't that the beauty of football? Charlie, you jumped on me and Arsenal away in the Conti. That's just
I wasn't even
the beauty of
drunk
it. That's the beauty of it. What's everyone else saying about Kate? Good performance for Kate. We already know she's good at set pieces. These just games. Yeah, and like I said, I think there has been justifiable criticism in the past. So that's certainly in these games as well. Yehuda, I'm going to make you an admin. 50 plus watching, 21 like. Yes, hit the like button. And also, if you are new, subscribe, because we are now on the road to 1,000. I can officially say that now we've broke the 900 mark. Loads of new people over the weekend, so that's fantastic. So get all your thoughts in as well. We want to hear what everyone's got to say. Did we talk about the second goal? I think we kind of covered it enough. But let's get on to the third one then. The big one, the Russo goal. Another set piece. The third United one. Sure. Yeah, go on, Charlie. What was that like in that away? Because I'm pretty sure I was very happy with a point at that point. I got to be honest. As soon as Millie Turner scored, I was like, right, I'm happy with that. Let's take a draw. Go on, take it.
It was like backs to the wall for Arsenal by then, because there'd been a couple of chances. There'd been Garcia's chance when Martha Thomas. Can we just say shout out for Martha Thomas, who struggled a bit this season when she's come on, but she was brilliant when she came on. Really good delivery from her for Garcia, and then Martha Thomas had a go herself, chested it on the half volley, and it did look like if anyone was going to win it, it was going to be us. And again, set piece perfect. Who's better at heading the ball to score than Russo? But what I love about that is there's like 5 Arsenal players around her. And like massive ones as well, like Miedemar, Ford, McCabe, who's a tank, Catley, someone at Lotte Wubben-Moy. And then if you look at, there's a really funny still image where they're all just like crouching down. Like Russo didn't even have to jump. Like she just stood there. She just stood there like, Katie, pop it on my bonds. I'm not going to move because these clowns are all going to fall over. Like she didn't even have to move or jump. It was just incredible. But it was like slow motion. And then she did her funny little celebration like she did in the Euros that time, with her arms in the air and just ran at the away fans. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It makes me laugh as well. Deborah's put it there 7 minutes. I actually trimmed that from Barry's clip that he sent me. I don't know whether I trimmed it from the vlog or not. But Barry, when you're filming the goal, you could hear everybody kicking off, going 7 minutes. How was there 7 minutes? All around my Barry.
It may have been because I heard that it was 7. I'd asked how long it was. Somebody said 7. And I was like, 7 minutes. And of course, you know what this lot are like. As soon as you say one thing, they latch on it a little bit. They latch like a leech.
Yeah.
To what you just said.
I had it on the timer, obviously, and I paused it when the little pitch invaders came on, and when they knew it was happening, and then kept on pausing it. And the ball was in play for 10 minutes. There was 10 minutes of that ball in play.
For that Arsenal equaliser,
14 if I didn't stop my stopwatch, because I had a double timer going on. It's lucky someone's in there taking note.
Yeah, it was not bad for someone who was, 7 sheets to the wind.
2 Camden Pale Ales to the wind. There are other brands available, not just those.
No other brands available at the Emirates, though.
No.
But we're talking about this lot, right? And there is nobody in this planet who I would rather have spent that evening with. The only person missing was you, Connor, really. Because having you there would have been the cherry on top of what was just an unbelievable 7 minutes. We couldn't believe it. It was unreal. And again, when I caught that again, I don't know. I don't know why it was. I only recorded 2 things, and they happened to be the goals at that point. It was just unreal. And again, that corner came in. You say Russo didn't have to move much, but she did move a little bit. She pulled herself in front of them. And again, it bounced just before it went in, and the goal has gone down. You're just thinking, is that going to go in? And when it did and the net bulged, well, that was it. We couldn't believe it. And then we had 5 minutes, roughly, to sort of try and get there. And that was why we were worried then at that point, because it was just been, sod's law that we let them equalise, and we didn't. So
It was good in-game
Absolutely.
management,
And then all the girls went to go see Mamma Mia the day after to celebrate. We love it.
Right?
in their stash. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's so random.
I hope their mother knew they were out.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
Des, was it hard not to celebrate when that goal went in?
I was sat next to another journo who I won't name because I won't out her as a Manchester United fan, but she is a Manchester United fan, and I was sat completely, and I just grabbed her on the arm. And we were just both looking at the thing like, oh my God. She turned around to me like a couple of minutes before and had gone like, it was the Garcia chance. And when the Garcia chance didn't go in, she was like, mate, I think that's our lot today. I think we'll just have to settle with a 2-2. But it was so sweet. So sweet. But then I had to put it back on and be like, back in the room. But no, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was really interesting. It was also interesting the buzz from the journalists in general of the fact that Manchester United had beaten Arsenal, and it was also funnier to watch them have to change their like on the 90 results. They were like tapping wildly. As they're trying to rewrite their pieces, being like, United failed to beat a top 3 team again, and it's like, not today. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. I could just send a tweet out being like, oh my God, she scored, and United have won, and then get some audio afterwards. So very, very luxury.
I wouldn't be able to do it. As Shane's referenced, my voice went ridiculously high in the celebrations in the Conti Cup. It's on video somewhere. Yeah. I'm not going to drag it up. But
I actually need to listen back to Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, who is a big Manchester United fan. I spoke to her in the press room before we went out, and she was covering the game for TalkSport, so she was up in the gantry, so I couldn't find her afterwards. But she was saying how excited she was to cover the game. She's covering the game at Old Trafford, I think, for Sky or TalkSport again, like on the 3rd. So, but she was like, "Oh, don't know how this game's gonna go," and all this sort of stuff. So that I'm sure that would have been great for her, and another one to see how impartial you can be. But yeah.
It would be hard. And as Sarah's rightly said, they're not just beating them, stop their run at the Emirates, stop their run in.
For sure.
Was it 14 or 15? I think
first league game they've lost at the Emirates.
So that's what I mean. Plenty, so many things, so many headlines that you could write. I mean, Deborah's talking about that. Can we have another show devoted to the? I mean, just watch the vlog. Just watch the vlog back that went out yesterday. I think that pretty much covers all things there. Cool. I want to get, before we get to the player match, I want to ask a question. I think Barry's going to probably go into this more on Wednesday on the fans forum, but I think where does this put United now? I asked Shaban this question earlier as well. So again, shameless plug, watch that tomorrow to find out her answer on this. Where does this put United in the conversation, I guess, for the title? Now, I'm not going to get too ahead of them. I still think that we will not challenge, but now I think we are right in it for Champions League. Now I don't think there's really too much of an excuse. But I'll come to each of you. Charlie, kick off with you. Where do you think does this win change anything in the conversation around United? Do you think it should, the fact that we've gone to Arsenal and beat them? Do you think that now we should be considered as title contenders? Do you think that it's just a good win? Because I think when I was writing this question down, I was thinking, if we've won that game, but if we then go and lose, if we don't beat Villa and lose to City, that win is almost irrelevant because we've not kicked on from it. Whereas if we go and win the next 2, obviously in the league, how do you... let's get rid of that. But Charlie, where do you think that puts us in the conversation now after that win?
I think we have to be in the conversation. I mean, Chelsea are always going to be ahead as long as they're spending an extortionate amount of money that other teams can't compete with because they're trying to build something sustainable. It's all say on that. But yeah, I think top 3 it's got to be. I think I'm more focused on the psychological impact that victory has on the players and the coaching staff, because it gives them some vindication about what they're capable of and what they can do. Because they didn't just go and it wasn't a lucky win against Arsenal. They outplayed them for much of that game. And to come back from 2-1 down and win was huge. And I think we originally said, and we've got to remember, I think we've talked about this before, where we said this run of 4 games that we had that included Arsenal, Chelsea and City, if we won one of them, if we could win one of those games, that was a massive step up. Just forget Villa for the moment, because accidents can happen, can't they? Occasionally teams lose to teams they shouldn't do. But we said to win one of the games, those games would be huge. If we were to go to the Etihad and win that as well, which we're more than capable. I'm not saying we definitely will, but we're more than capable of. I think that puts us as a good contender for second place. I think it's going to be tough. It's always going to be tough with Chelsea because they could have 11 players injured and they just bring on another starting world-class 11 again, which is really hard for anyone to compete with. But I think we have to say we're in amongst it. How can we say we're not? It's not about getting overexcited or ahead of yourself. Beaten Arsenal, who were top of the league. We've done the job we were asked to do. We've lost one game against Chelsea, but there were improvements there. It wasn't it was a couple of errors, individual errors, that meant we didn't get out of that game maybe what we wanted to. So yes, we're in a really strong position. And like I said, if we go on and beat City as well, I think that sends out a real statement of intent.
Yeah, I'll come to you next, Barry, because I want to end off for Chess on this question because I know what Barry's going to say already because he's already put it along the ticker along the bottom. So go on, Barry. Where does this put us in the conversation, do you think? Oh, here we go.
I can't help it. I said it. You all laughed at me. You giggled at me. You thought I was having a giggle, and I wasn't having a giggle. I told you we had a good shot. We've got 7 more WSL games, I think. I was just trying to count that until you managed to come to me quite so quickly. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 7 more games until we play Chelsea again. In those runs, we've got Leicester, we've got Everton, we've got Reading, we've got Liverpool, and obviously the 2 coming up against Villa and City. The simple fact of the matter is we get that win against Villa. We go to the Etihad. We've got an opportunity then to face City. We've just got to take it a game at a time. You know, we sit here as fans and we go, 7 games until we've got to play that again. Or we've got this going on or that going on. Villa's the next game. We've got to get ourselves to Villa, take that game on and win it. We owe them after that Conti Cup match because we really should have beaten them then. I think if we do that, we're going to be in amongst it. If we win, as it stands, if we win every single game for the rest of this season, we'll be champions because obviously Chelsea will be beaten and we've got the game in hand over them. So even a draw against Chelsea could do it. It's like, come on, Sang, where are you? The simple truth is we're there. We're in without a shout. Now, don't get me wrong, it could go wrong, but all I keep hearing on the men's side of things is how we're Man United. We should be fighting for things. We should be going for it. Well, why not have just a little bit now of, do you know what, we're doing well and enjoy it. It might not work, but I know that Mark and I both sat here and said at the beginning of the season, just enjoy the ride. And that enjoys the highs as well. And at the moment we're there, we're in those highs. So enjoy it. Like Charlie says, it's not about getting over-egged. I know entirely that if we don't win the league now, it's, you know, I've set myself up for a massive fail, Norman Wisdom-esque. But just enjoy it. Genuinely, just enjoy it. I think we are exactly that. We're forcing our way into the conversation. We said the top 4, you know, the top 3 was now top 4. And so it proves 3 teams on 18 points with another one on 15. Do me a favour. Spurs out the conversation because they bottled it against Chelsea. Love it. Love it. It's amazing. We're going to win the league. We're going to win the league. Now you're going to believe us.
We were singing that.
Don't tell me you were singing that. Just, oh, no.
Oh, yeah, of course. We might never get to sing it again.
Along with our new song as well about Laetitia.
That's a Liverpool. No, you don't want to take songs from Liverpool, though. You know what happened to them? They bottled the league when they started singing that.
From Laetitia. Laetitia is magic. She wears a magic hat. And when she saw Lee Sports Village, she said, I fancy that. She didn't sign for Arsenal. Chelsea or City. She signed for Man United because we're going to win the league. And we sang that for 4 or 5 minutes, non-stop on that 30 minutes. And it was the loudest song that I heard all day.
Was that before or after she scuffed the ball into the back of the net? Or
Maya?
Yeah. Who did it come off?
It came off Maya.
Yeah.
I mean, it did. Yeah, off of her knee via the ground and then bounced up into
I know
the
it was very unfortunate.
Oh,
I think she's magic. So I'm not saying that. I think she's great. She was great for England as well, and so I'm very happy about it. I just had to push you in there. But brilliant singing as always. I need to find the song. Someone needs to link me the song book, so I can link it in somehow.
Not Everton here.
No, for free. PDF, love it. But yeah, I don't think it changes the position that United are in realistically, because yeah, if we go on to win every other game, we win the league. Awesome. But if we don't, we don't. It's too soon to say. Realistically, with football, it's the hope that kills you, as always. But I do think it's more for the team within themselves. I think it's the confidence that's come to go away, go to the Emirates, beat someone on their home soil after they've been banging on about the fact that they've won 14 consecutive games in a row, even though within that they only played Tottenham once, and none of the rest of them were top 3 teams that they were playing. That's an aside. But realistically, it's a confidence thing. To be able to come from behind, I think that's what's going to be really important. Whether they can dip into that sort of mentality again, that's what we've got to look for.
No, that's a fair point. I think, my answer's somewhere in the middle of everyone's. Certainly not on. I'm not quite saying for the title yet. Otherwise, my WhatsApps probably say otherwise to some people, especially Rob, Chelsea fan, have been spamming him saying we're going to win the league. But I don't fully. To be honest, the aim was always top 3 this season, so it's not going to feel like a disappointment if we finish 3rd or 2nd. I think it is what it is. So yeah, we shall see. Let's get to the player of the match then before we look to round this one off. I don't even need to look who's won because I think I already know. Before I get everyone else's vote, before I actually read the poll out, let's get to the panelists who you would have voted for or you have voted for. Charlie, who was yours?
I voted for El Capitano, which will be no surprise. Probably don't need to explain it again.
No, I mean, if you don't feel like you need to, that's fair enough.
I can do. But yeah, that was always who I was going to vote for. Always.
Barry?
Jay Moore. I mean, Katie Zellum. Sorry.
Same reasons?
You asked me that.
And Chess, are you going to make it a full house?
It is going to be a full house for me. I thought she should have got it on the day. She had an absolutely resplendent performance, really confident, and showed character as a captain. I was very impressed.
Who did get it on the day?
Russo. They gave it to Manham in the stadium, but then Russo got it. But then she did score the last-minute winner, but she didn't have the same impact that Zellum had throughout the entire game. But we'll allow it. Babes, if I say that I thought you were fantastic, will you sign a new contract? If you're listening, maybe. Is she listening? Probably not.
Wow, you never know.
Well, you never know.
Might be a bit bored.
Yeah.
She's on the thumbnail. She might find it.
Yeah.
But I would have gone for Zellum as well, purely just on the fact that she's had so many criticism, in particular against the top 3, and to put that kind of performances off the back of the Chelsea one, with a break sandwiched in the middle of it, I think was fantastic as well. So, yeah, I think everyone in the chat is pretty much agree. Let's see what people are saying. Even Sang saying Zellum. TJ went for Zellum. Mark. Goal scorer usually, yeah, and I think because we were going to put Russo on the poll, but I don't think Russo was outstanding for the game. She just got the winning goal, which, to be fair, I'm more than happy with if she keeps getting winning goals like that.
I've got to say though, if I can just ask Sang, based on what he's put here, why to your dismay? Why to your dismay? Do you say that because you just don't think you rate Katie Zellum and you don't like the fact that she's made you look like a buffoon, or is it that it's just, because you're a Chelsea fan and saying anything positive about Man United makes you come out in a rash? Which one of those two might it be?
What's going on there? Mark and Shane are having their own little conversation.
We're talking about 12 lads, 12 days of Christmas.
Thought they would. But yes, I'm sure that's going to be sung quite loudly at Old Trafford for people that are going. I don't know where we are with ticket sales at Old Trafford, but I hope that the hope is always to beat your rivals in there. I don't think we are going to get over 40,000, but we can dream and hope that we can get over 40k at Old Trafford. Certainly, we need to get more than the Etihad. I think that's the aim. Again, on current sales, I don't think we will, but hopefully we can beat the Etihad.
Let's be honest, half the sales for the Etihad game are us. If Man City put a bit of effort in to send in some away fans, that might help.
Plus, I mean, it's always going to look more full. And in comparison to what they get in attendance wise for the men's, it's always going to look good as well, isn't it? Really? Yeah. Get about 25. That'll do. Give away some tickets for free. That's all right.
Deb was asking how many beers. I wouldn't buy a beer at
None.
Old Trafford. They're
None,
mad
because
expensive.
I don't like it out of a bottle.
They're really expensive as well.
Too gassy.
I wouldn't be ordering from there.
No.
That's Barry, by the way. Before I'm roped into buying drinks there.
Minimum.
At least. I mean, listen, you were entertaining as hell on Saturday on 2. So I feel we should all club together for that. If you can drop an F-bomb after 2, I want to see what happens after 3, if I'm honest with you. We could have...
yeah, I was about to say, you said about the pitch invaders before. Yeah. Score a last-minute winner. You top off, running around the pitch, knee slide in front of the home fans. Pure Adebayor moment. It'll be wonderful.
And then get 2-foot tackled by Hayley Ladd. That'd make my day.
Dangerous considering where we're standing, though. You've got to go a long way down for that one.
Yeah, that would be quite something. £3 for a beer at Old Trafford now, are they? That's never right. I've not been for about a year. So.
It's the cheapest beers in the Premier League at Old Trafford.
Is it?
£3.
I've not been for about a year, so that's probably why. I think the last game I went to, we lost 1-0 to Villa and Bruno missed a penalty in front of the Stretford end. So I haven't been back since.
No.
But there we are. But everyone's talking about your drinking, Charlie.
I don't mind. I have nothing to hide. A box of wine. That's a funny concept, isn't it? A box of wine in like a pig's bladder. That's odd, isn't it?
I can't say I've ever ordered.
It's not even really a box, is it? It's a bag in a box.
Yeah.
It's like how they have a bag of milk in Canada. Anyway, we're getting massively off topic.
But yeah, Katie Zellum.
Katie Zellum was sick. Well done, her. Carry on with that. Would quite like that. Score from a corner if you want to do that in Old Trafford in a couple of weeks' time. That'd be pretty sick. But there's not the wind from Lee Sports Village to help you on with that, so maybe it will be a little bit more difficult.
100%. And yeah, I agree with that comment. Big win against big venue, psychologically, yeah, 100%. That's the key, and that's what I think we'll wrap it up on. That this has to be a stepping stone, not just a one-off. I think this has got to be, because we've beaten Arsenal before and we didn't manage to continue a good run after that. Let's make sure now 2 big wins, obviously, well 4 if you include the Conti, 2 big WSL wins. Let's win in the Conti, and let's really, as TJ put, force ourselves into the conversation. Let's not just force us, let's keep us in the conversation, because we don't want to be sat here in February, March, and we've dropped out of it. So that's the most important thing.
So Zellum won the player of the match, right?
Oh yes.
What was the other?
Yes. So Katie Zellum 73%, Hayley Ladd 15, Blundell and Toone both on 6. So Zellum, if you are watching, you've won today's player of the match pretty comfortably. Well, I think that's one of the biggest margins since the first game of the season when Maya won it. Which was always going to happen after the 2 debut goals there. Cool. Before we wrap up then, Chess, where can people find all your stuff? Because I know you do a podcast of your own, and well, amongst so many other things, where can people find all of your work on that?
Find me on Twitter at FV Warren. There you go. What's in my handle there? How nice of you, Connor, to do that for me. Also, I'm the presenter of the Women's Football Podcast, so you can find us on all lovely podcasting platforms. Our one for this weekend has already come out. We had Sandra Broby, women's football reporter for The Sun, and we also had Michael McCann, who is one of the main commentators. He does loads of stuff for the Champions League and also the FA on the FA Player, so make sure to give that a listen. You can find that on all good podcasting platforms, Spotify. Just look up the Women's Football Podcast. We're not the athletic one. We're the other one. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's TWFP1. Very easy. So yeah, give us a follow.
You've got such a good presenter voice. You just like the way you shout it all that out.
Switch it on.
Proper professional. Not like me. I just reel off a load of list of things that was coming up for the rest of the time. So yes. So the Shaban interview will be out tomorrow. I'm not just saying that because I did it, but it is on. It is a fantastic watch. So make sure you tune in for that. Like I said, some insight into the Arsenal camp. Talks a little bit about Zellum, where that leads United in the conversation, all these kinds of things. Barry will be back on Wednesday for a fans forum. So more United fans. I don't know what the topic is, but it's probably going to be something off the back of what we've said today. So make sure you tune in for that. Make sure you're liking the video.
Along the lines of how many steps are there at Reading, and can we count them?
We're not doing that. You feel free. You can do it at the end as long as you've done your main discussion point. As Sang said, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe if you're new around here. Like I said, because we're now on 908, we've gained another 6 since we've been live, so that's fantastic. So if we can hit 1,000 by Christmas, let's just say that target. That will be absolutely fantastic. So make sure you're doing all that. Follow these 3 as well, and we shall see you in the next one.